Hello everyone. I would like to channel the Lucifer rebellion. With everything going on the planet at this time, I would like to provide clarity as well as empowerment to all those who would like to discover the Lucifer rebellion. For myself, I resonate deeply with the Middle East. I've had a lot of incarnations in the Middle East in a different time than we think of today, and even a different history than what we have in our history textbooks. I resonate a lot with the Anunnaki, and I consider myself a protector, a guardian. The Anunnaki are seen as giant beings, seen as judges in the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the sort of earlier literatures that we have in our understanding of history in the current time. And, you know, these great giant beings were seen as protectors and guardians, and they were seen as really advanced, both in astrology, cosmology, geometry, mathematics, very sophisticated in upholding an advanced civilization that is very balanced between its masculine, right, and its feminine, right? The Anunnaki are seen as more masculine, and in the depictions of them, you mostly see kind of men. They have wings, seen as winged beings, kind of like ascended masters. It's depicted as sort of a long beard. Definitely have the Middle Eastern type of features with larger eyes. Definitely seen as, again, very massive. Presence auric-wise, and kind of like Da Vinci and Da Vinci's prolific work of really sort of a Mer-ka-ba knowledge. They are very knowledgeable about the Cabal and the Mer-ka-ba. When we think of that's kind of knowledge that's held in pretty much all religions, in Muslim and Jewish and Christian and Buddhism, right? The same kind of Mer-ka-ba knowledge of esoterics is very much the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki in the Middle East are seen as kind of like I would say the founding fathers. Okay, the founding fathers to where, you know, what we think as the cradle of life, right? In the Sumerian, one of the first civilizations to have we've had on this earth, but it isn't the first advanced civilization we've had on planet Earth. It's just in our understanding, right? We can only go as far back as maybe 13,000 years in our understanding of history. Right, we think of the pyramids like 7,000, the Sphinx maybe 10,000, but we really can't go further back than like 13,000 unless we're thinking of people as cavemen and hunters and gatherers. But advanced civilization, no, it doesn't go back 13,000 years. No, right? We're just cavemen before that. So I just wanted to give you kind of about me and my channel of thought. So my understanding of like the Middle East, it goes before the patriarchal age. I actually have the memory of a matriarchal age within the Middle East. Before we think of the Sumerians, so the Babylonians, and all these other kind of civilizations that are all influencing each other, even before Egypt. You know, I resonate with 30,000 years ago. I resonate even with Thoth, 50,000 years ago. I resonate with a matriarchal period of time. I resonate with pyramids that were used for something very different than just tombs, right? Current Egyptology accepted in academia is their tombs, right? But I kind of have memories of them being used for something very different, something more close related to Nikola Tesla's free wireless energy tower. I resonate with the periods being more of like Nikola Tesla type of stream of thought than a sort of a burial, or ground, right? So, and I also resonate a lot with the Nile River being really close to the pyramids. I think the Nile River is about maybe like 8 miles away from the Giza pyramids, the main ones. But I actually have memories of the Nile running like almost right against the pyramids. Like you could literally walk into the Nile, like it was really close, and it was also contained. There's some like real Atlantean technology, because Atlanteans, which was seen before Egypt, the Pharaoh Egypt dynastic, um, actually had technology that could work with water. They were very water based, kind of like the Aegeans. Ionians were seafaring, so they had a lot of knowledge on like the water, and like, the Atlanteans, same thing. They had a lot of knowledge on the water, and how to control water, how to manipulate water. And I think even today, our current understanding of like water is we're actually knowing how to harness water through frequency, through sound, through vibration, that we possibly in the future can even stop tsunamis or tidal waves from occurring through sound, through vibration, to kind of counteract from like a earthquake or something like that, or a natural disaster, to kind of pull the energy back into equilibrium through a technology. So I feel like the Nile was, we think of the flood, right? I think that there was some kind of technology with the Nile that was used. The same as we think of Atlantis in Plato's kind of like a vision of it. He talks briefly like about it's in a spherical kind of, formation, and that in the center, right, there's basically where people live, right? And there's these outer rings. Like I would say there's 3 4 rings, and on these rings people live on them. Like they're kind of like islands, and there's water within each ring. And the water, it's kind of like a river, I suppose, and it's used to generate the city. So in the middle you see this massive pyramid, and there's a huge, it's pretty big, right? And it's a water technology, right? That and whole obelisks and crystals used, as like we use today as the microchips crystal to hold information, and also used to conductors and all these type of things. So there's a whole past of our history that we don't have access to in our high school textbooks, because our high school textbooks are mostly patriarchal lens. Mostly, Egyptologists, archaeologists is very patriarchal lens, very linear mind, very rational mind. But even some of these, like these, pre-dynastic Egypt, I think it belonged to a matriarchal culture, which was we were evolved beyond the 3 dimensions we know. So in order to understand this sort of pre-dynastic Egypt that is really mysterious, we would have to evolve beyond the 3 dimensions we know to understand that kind of complexity of knowledge. Like, how do they move these monolithic structures? Is it a rope and some rolling wood? I mean, that doesn't make sense, because we can't even lift. We there's no way with our cranes that we could lift these megaton blocks, even with cranes today. So there's other stuff going on that we, our rational minds, cannot comprehend. But if we tapped more into the balance between the masculine and feminine mind, we might be able to see more into a spherical understanding of energy, right? So, okay. So the Lucifer rebellion, we've been going through this for for thousands of years. This is not our first rodeo. We've been going through this definitely many centuries, definitely 1,000 years, with this Luciferian rebellion. It's a negative transmission. It's very negatively charged, very entrapping, and it kind of undermines humanity. Okay. And I think this came about, long ago, I think when we were on Mars. Okay, so this is, we've been kind of working with this for some time. But as we raise our consciousness, this is the thing. As we raise our consciousness, it's no longer going to affect us as is in the dark age. When we're in the dark age, it definitely affects us because we're sleeping, right? And we're not utilizing the knowledge of the tools that we have within, because we're atrophying it. We're not using it. So we weaken that part of ourselves, right? So when we raise our consciousness and start to get stronger in these areas of spirituality and the mind and meditation and, our energy and creativity, we're not going to be so affected by it. We're actually just going to look at it just, as a challenge, but we're not going to get so like obsessed. Like some people get really, really obsessed and locked in and just into the suffering. Like they get really, really like just bound to the suffering, right? So this Lucifer rebellion, we know has a lot to do with control, has a lot to do with controlling the people, and it has a lot to think of the Moses with the Israelites, and with the Hitler and the Jews. I mean, it has a lot to do with suppressing the spiritual knowledge, and these sacred esoteric teachings that belong to really advanced civilizations that are our ancestors, as a way to control the humans, to put them in almost like a god. God wants to seeing themselves as a god that wants to kind of control the outcome, right? To take the energy, to use the humans as they want to use it. And it's a karma that we've experienced. We think of like demons and Satan, and they know as much knowledge as the angels, right? They're seen as fallen angels, so they're seen as they were angels, but then they're fallen angels. But so they hold that the same knowledge. It's just these beings are kind of trapped because they can't evolve. I wouldn't say, I mean, they can evolve, but they're very bound to these karmas, and they can't really awaken the fullness of their energy, the wholeness of themselves. Okay, so there's limitation there, and I'm talking about the fullness of who they are. Is they don't know how to really they know how to turn on their Mer-ka-ba, right? Because only love and can turn on the Mer-ka-ba, compassion. So if you're really caught up in all this, karma of hate and resentment and negativity, and you're really in that, you can't turn on your Mer-ka-ba. In Mer-ka-ba, every being has a Mer-ka-ba, universal, angel, demon. But if you get, you have to have love for yourself, okay? And you have to, you have to come from the place of your spirit, from your divinity, okay? And that's love. So, of course, we've had spiritual battles, and we still have spiritual battles, psychological battles. We've had these wars, and but as we move out of the dark age, it's going to become we're going to start to get wiser. Okay, in the dark age, there's a lot of suffering, and even now there's a lot of suffering, because we're not utilizing the teachings and the tools we have within. Okay, we all have the same teachings that the Anunnaki beings of the ancient past were using. And again, a lot of times people think of the Anunnaki as they were masters, and they try to use the humans for slaves, and we, as one would say, as a collective, we allowed it, because sometimes we can get into that thought as like we allowed it as a collective. I would say that there's a lot of interference that's come to Earth, right? Originally, Earth has its own kind of Mer-ka-ba, its own grid, its own blueprint for designed for creativity for us as human beings and all their species. But there's a lot of different kinds of beings who've come to Earth since then. Since we've came from Mars to Earth in the great nuclear, I would say nuclear war that we had on Mars, which kind of broke down the electromagnetic field of Mars, and it created basically the extinction event on Mars, right? Where it was not really habitable to live because of something about the atmosphere. Maybe it got really red, or got really something, so we had to go to Earth. And there's a lot of beings have come to Earth and their own kind of experiences with Earth, and karmas that they've created with humans and with the Earth, different types of beings. And karma, it always wants to neutralize itself to get back to a place of love. right? And it will continue to kind of, wherever you're going or whatever reality you're in, it's really kind of it's from the karmas, right? So, when we think of like these negative beings, it's like, they're really trapped in these karmas, right? Where they can't really move to these more liberated planes of wholeness, right? So it's very limited. It's very limited. These type of beings, very very limited. You're very very limited, because you're not tapping into the wholeness. Because only the Mer-ka-ba has the wholeness. So you're kind of, yeah, you may have a certain knowledge and have all this knowledge, but you're very limited with just these type of karmas you have, and you're repeating the same karmas again and again and again. So it's when we think of hell, it's like repeating the same karmas again and again. And yeah, you may have the knowledge on many things and esoterics or spiritual teachings, but if you don't have that love, it's like you could have all the knowledge of the world and still not ever go anywhere with it, right? So I think with the Lucifer rebellion, examples like the matriarchal, right? Overthrowing the matriarchal long ago, like the derobing, right? Derobing is, you've seen in, I think, in the Bhagavad Gita, they derobe the matriarchal queens, which is basically stripping them of their power, their leadership, right? And forcing women to, queens, basically queens in a completely different period of time, to marry, right? Like arranged marriage, men who wanted to become kings, who wanted to become the supreme ruler or leader or something like that, and would take all the power away from the queen, and then we switched into the patriarchal, right? So, and then, the deception, right? Like Yugi Bhajan, he calls it like a beautiful deception. Like it's so beautiful and it's so attractive looking and glamorous, but it's a beautiful deception, right? And that's kind of been the whole magic show of the Lucifer rebellion, because of the dark, we've been in the dark age, so it's been even more so heavy, right? With withholding of knowledge, discrimination, segregation, separation, all kinds of situations that we've experienced that have created suffering. And a lot of these religions that we have were, because of where we've been in our past, we needed teachers to help us to awaken these gifts, these spiritual gifts, so that we don't get trapped in these karmas where we're spending thousands of lives just in the same kind of resentment, and then, trying to, whatever it is, right? That creates more of the suffering, which is like not feeling good, and not liking yourself, not liking other people, and just kind of being like not being in your joy, not being in your liberation. So a lot of in our ancient past, we've had a lot of these religions like Jesus and the Buddha, and we've had a lot of the Fatima and Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and so many other, beings, awakened beings who literally awaken their Mer-ka-ba through love to help people awaken theirs in a time where we're sleeping, where our consciousness is so low that it's like we almost we can't function, right? We almost like we can't function, we can't manifest, and when we're in that low consciousness and almost like we can't function or manifest, we're very susceptible to making these contracts or agreements, or giving our power away, or being dependent on something that seems powerful and almighty but is really just false, right? Because we're sleeping and we just don't have that discernment because we haven't even awakened, right? So I think, fear is a big tactic, and we know this is you don't have to be in the CIA to kind of know about those, the tactics of how to control, right, and manipulate it. Fear is a big one. The fear of death, the fear of loss, the fear of being alienated, the fear of losing, again, the fear of death, loss, and being alienated is a big one, right? And a part of our response to that as a collective in, our, the karma we've created and with this whole suffering is to just submit, right? But we're in a completely different time as we move forward, and we've actually successfully, and we've always, in many various, time periods, we've always successfully moved forward from that. We've always successfully taken back our power, and said no, right? And there's so many different time periods where we've really gotten into situation, out of being really asleep and not paying attention and not using discernment and just being dependent and false prophet, and but we've always found a way to say no, and to empower ourselves to make new choices, because on earth we have been able to uphold the seventh dimension. We have been able to connect to the 12th dimension on this planet, on earth, right? In different time periods, it's just we go through the rise and fall of consciousness, and we're at the fall of consciousness right now, but we're actually moving up, right? So there's this whole Vedic wheel of like 26,000 years, and we've been going through this so many times for, a long time on Earth, millions of years, even on Mars. And, with the fall of consciousness, again, we're sleeping, so we're very vulnerable, susceptible to spiritual attack, because it's like we haven't even woken our Mer-ka-ba, right? So we don't even really have, it's like we don't even really know alchemy, right? So we come into this earth, and this dimension with this dark age, and we don't know how to turn on the Merkaba, so it's like it becomes very challenging to maneuver through suffering and things, because we don't even know alchemy. And that's the basic kind of offering of the Mer-ka-ba for every human being, is to the knowledge of Mer-ka-ba, which is basically mind over matter, how to transmute, how to transform, how to master energy, how to heal wounds, pains, karmas, scars, all this kinds of stuff. But when you don't know, it's like you're just caught in the suffering, type of pool, and you don't even know how to get out of it. So and then you create more karma, and then Yogi Bhajan says the mountain of karma, and then that kind of situation. So all of us have a mountain of karma, and it's not negative or positive. It's just we have so much experience. Karma is basically experience. So much experience on earth for a lot of people who are watching this video. And basically what we've seen in our past, this dark age, but other dark ages, this is not the only video. It has a lot to do with taking away the voice, the personal freedom, personal power, and it's kind of like what do you call it, anti-Merkaba, right? It's kind of like anti raising consciousness, or anti self-empowerment, right? That is created out of duality. It was created out of duality, right? When we separated from each other long ago, Mars, when we separated from each other, we became my bloodline versus your bloodline, right? And that simple choice to separate, of course, with other interference, led to the duality of the Mer-ka-ba and then the anti-Mer-ka-ba, right? Which is like in opposition to the Mer-ka-ba, an awakening of it. So I think we can, as we have played that conflict again, like I've been in so many revolutions, you've been in so many revolutions, right? And it's just the fight for freedom, the fight for personal power, the fight for justice, right? Whatever it may be. We've done that so many thousands of years. The Moses time, I mean, so many thousands of years. Even on Mars, there was wars on Mars, but we've also found ways to liberate ourselves and to get out of that fighting and transcend it. And that's kind of what we're doing now, because we're raising our consciousness, moving on the dark age. We are going to be able to transcend this duality, this polarity, this separation, and it's really through the love. It's through the awakening of the Mer-ka-ba, the love, that the spirit is able to move beyond the beautiful deception and really get to reality, right? Pure, basic, simple reality, and alchemy, and understand, you know, the choices, and become more conscious of the unconscious, right? And that's a process of, we've sleeping, where we're completely unconscious and don't even know what we're doing. It's like we come in life, we're born, and then we die, and it's all like, what was I doing? Like, it's almost like you just don't even know, like, what? It's almost like you're drugged the whole time, right? To like a full alertness, where you actually, now is a beautiful time where people are coming in and they're actually creating things. They're completing things that they wanted to complete, long ago, right? Because in the dark age, we're still like, and some people are still in that, where, you can't really, you can only create when your Mer-ka-ba is awakened. And that's the thing, with it, whatever Luciferian is, like, they can't really create. So there's all these little stories about, like, the Luciferian rebellions having to use other people's energy. It's because they don't have energy, right? It's like, anti-Mer-ka-ba, it's kind of like a double-sided sword, I would say. Like, you think, like, you have the power, but then also you're bleeding, like, because you're using a double-sided sword. So it's like, you know, without the Mer-ka-ba, you can't really create anything. But the only thing you can do is distort, manipulate, and deceive, right? Which is create illusions. But you can't really create anything. You can whisper, but other people, to do this, do that. But you yourself, the Mer-ka-ba is the alchemy, is how to create. So it was basically, not really creators, right? And that's why we think of like destroyers, right? But all of us, the Mer-ka-ba is both creative and destructive, but in a equalizing way, in a equilibrium. Like, a certain amount of deaths have to happen on the planet. That's just how it is. To create the equilibrium, a certain amount of births need to happen for equilibrium. Right? So it's not necessarily, destruction as in like the Lucifer rebellion, which is seen as creating karmas that create more suffering. That's different than with the destruction I'm talking about. The suffering, you're just karmas of more suffering, and it just wears your energy down. Like, it's wearing down the planet, or it's wearing down your energy, wearing down other people's energy. That's different than destruction, as in, a certain amount of species of ant need to die, so that there's not a overpopulation of ants, so there's equilibrium, so there's masculine, feminine harmony, right? Same as there needs to be enough solar systems that die or go through their death process for there to be equilibrium in the universe, right? It's just a natural process. It's the Mer-ka-ba, natural rhythms and phases. But the destruction I'm talking about is like a complete like creating karmas that just create like tears, wounds, and scars just within you and your karmas, and it's creating it's just creating these attachments to things, that it traps you, right? So right, and if you're in that enough time, it's just um it's like you lose a lot of energy in that, right? So then you have to get energy from something else, like an attachment, right? That's the thing. Like, any person that has Lucifer, there's always some kind of attachment to something, like an addiction, an obsession, porn, or just weird stuff, trying to get energy, because you have none. You have no energy. Not real energy. Real energy is from the Mer-ka-ba. High energy is from the Mer-ka-ba. Like, and so you have to get it through other ways. And usually it's getting it through people who have an awakened Mer-ka-ba. Let's be honest. So it's like, if you don't have awakened Mer-ka-ba, you compensate by, trying to get somebody else's Mer-ka-ba. And but it still doesn't work, right? It still doesn't work. So yeah, this is a little bit about this Lucifer rebellion, because I want people to not be afraid of this, and because we've been around the block and we've gone through men suffering on this planet, generational, all these traumas, shame, and for us, particularly women, because a lot of the patriarchal age was set up to basically strip women of all their power, and basically it was very, most women in many ways were stripped of all power, right, for a very long time, and a lot of suffering with that. And even before that, in our matriarchal age, there was also imbalances the way we treated men, right? So again, the karma kind of swing shot to now men, and then treating women. So I think this is a very interesting time on planet Earth, the age of Aquarius, and why there's so many advanced souls coming here, and star beings, and star seeds, and healers, medicine women, medicine men, who are coming, is because we have the opportunity within this portal of the masculine and feminine coming to the reconciliation. We have the opportunity to actually rewrite history of the past, the karmas, right, to really clear them. And the thing is, you can't clear karma and create more of it. Like, you have to transcend it, and you have to come from a place of unconditional love. It's like you can't clear the karma coming from judgment, right? It's like, it's a real place of unconditional love, of acceptance, and then higher energy. You have to put higher energy into it as well, to move it, to literally move it, like alchemy. And we have the opportunity to be able to, we can kind of we talk about a new paradigm, right, of Earth, and the new age and the new Earth, and like, what is that? Like, we can, because we're in a period of time where we've been around the block a couple of times. Earth is relatively adolescent. The sun is pretty adolescent, right? I mean, we're not old on this planet, right? Mars is actually older when it comes to our human history. But we are at an interesting time where we're at a certain maturity level, right? We've had the rise and fall, we've had advanced civilizations, we've had, more primitive civilization. We did that a couple times, Lemuria, Atlantis, Egypt, and, we've had indigenous people, Native American people, and had really strong spiritual, awakenings and real declines. So we're at a period of time, where we can actually, a certain maturity, where we can decide to it's not moving beyond polarity, right, or duality, because polarity is the friction that creates heat, that creates energy, right? Everything, life needs the friction. You need night and day, these type of things. You need fire, you need, water, you need earth, you need wind. All of this polarity. It's all that friction that creates energy, that creates heat, that creates creativity, spark of the divine. But I think it's coming, we have an opportunity to really gain the wisdom from thousands of years of experience that we've had on Earth through awakening the Mer-ka-ba. We have the opportunity to gain the wisdom, right, of thousands upon thousands of years of where we've been, and that kind of creates a aha moment, like a revelation that creates like a, because some of these teachings, like I'm going to give you a teaching very quickly, or very soon, that is a really good mantra to play for kids who have nightmares, for yourself, you have nightmares, for just if you're feeling real negativity, or you're feeling a ghost, or whatever it is, it's fear, or you just want to feel spiritually protected, right? Give that to you. But this teaching I'm giving to you is very old. It actually comes from the Middle East, okay? And it comes from, ascended masters, because this earth is a lot of ascended masters, okay? As many ascended masters that, who have awakened the Mer-ka-ba, and who have helped other people awaken the Mer-ka-ba through teachings. And these teachings are in our Sachic record of Earth, and our sun, actually, teachings of Mars as well. And we're gonna, through awakening the Mer-ka-ba, that's happening from a lot of people right now, just being alive, and receiving the new sun, and receiving these, transmissions that are coming from the celestial realms, angelic realms. It's happening where people are gaining the knowledge or the wisdom of their soul through many, many lifetimes on earth, and are gaining, okay, they're having a aha moment about the beautiful deception, right? And, there's a lot of people who are caught in this beautiful deception. It's like, I'm just gonna be, it's like a vaccine. Like, it's presented so beautiful. It's beautiful. Look at it. It's full. It's like you see a commercial and it's like the vaccine is like some beautiful, like, party or something like that, right? A beautiful deception. But then when you go into it and research, you start to find, okay, why is it not FDA approved? Why am I finding all these articles about people who have injuries, and it's like not good injuries type of things, right? When you know what I'm saying? When you research, you go into it, right? And I think people are going to start to go into it and not just the beautiful deception, which is like when you're asleep, it's like you're in la la land, like you're like, like you have no idea what you're doing, right? It's just like, oh yes, you want me? It's like what do you call Hansel and Gretel. It's like, come, I have cookies, and it's like some beautiful cookie house, and like, yes, okay, stranger, let her come into your house, and it's not listening to your intuition. Like if someone in the CIA, like who could read people's faces, would look at that witch or whatever, right, in the Hansel and Gretel story, and be like, something's off. Something is off, right? She may have these cookies and cookie house, cookie candy, but looking at her, I see mental illness, or uh, I see anger, and then investigate further, right? Because when you have your Mer-ka-ba, you see things you see beyond the surface. You see beyond what appears. It's like when like your medium that can see beyond the physical, like medium psychics, the Mer-ka-ba, you can see beyond what is apparent, right? So you're not so easily to just la 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 into off a cliff, or you la 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 into these karmas that maybe you didn't necessarily need to be a part of, right? And I think a part of our big Lucifer like rebellion and our development as human beings through many thousands of years is it really developed leadership. Mars and Earth in this system is seen as real leaders. Because of how intense we've gotten with the whole battle, right? Star Wars type of battle type of thing. We've gotten some real battles for thousands of years, and others, like Pleiadians and Orions look at us like, whoa, like they really like to fight, right? They love to fight, or fighters, right? But it's also created leaders, and great immense victims, and the polarity, negative, but it's created immense leaders at the same time. But the point of, moving forward is we don't just want leaders and victims. Like, that's not what we want. Okay? We don't just want, leaders and then victims. Okay? It's like the equilibrium or the neutralization or the kind of finding the harmony is about is kind of is like coming from a place of empowerment. Fighting is like the leader victim, but empowerment is like the it's like the self-responsible and the self-initiating. So it's like different, right? It's a different kind of a higher octave of fighting, right? Empowerment. It's like a higher octave than what we think of, like, the battles that we've all had in the Star Wars, and why we're so, love Star Wars and Star Trek, and it's all fighting, and there's so many battles and wars, and I'll destroy your planet, and no, you'll destroy mine, and that kind of thing. And that has a lot to do, not necessarily with just the Lucifer rebellion, but it has a lot to do with the earth, and the earth long ago, millions of years of Mars, why do we think Mars is like Pluto? Before Pluto was Pluto, right? Mars was considered the Pluto, which is death and rebirth, right? This solar system, Mars, our first kind of place that we, had human life and civilization long millions of years ago. We created this Mer-ka-ba together, right? Ascended masters helped to create the Mer-ka-ba, right? The original Mer-ka-ba, Earth, was created in a way of on Earth for an immense creative expression, right? Mars is, ruled by Aries. Aries is like a warrior, a fighter, of course, but also very creative, Earth and Mars had a very high energy, very high energy. Very different from like Pleiades or Orion or these other the Andromeda galaxy, or the Lyran beings or the Syrians, and all these other beings that have come to Earth to share or to experience or to gain knowledge or exploration or even to influence, right? They've saw Earth and Mars as a even our Egyptian were warriors, right? They seem as like, whoa, they're very tough. But in the in the kind of flip side of that, there also can be very victims, right? So it's like, where do we find the balance in that, right? Um, so there's been so much interference. So it's like you don't even know the original, like what's the original Earth, because there's just so many different agendas and influences. And I think how we really tap into the most original template for Earth, which is more on a prototype of the Pleiades, is more of the prototype. That's why a lot of indigenous people have a lot of star beings come from Pleiades or Orion. There's a lot of reference to Orion or Pleiades, because I think our Earth and the Mer-ka-ba of the planet itself, the grid system, is in more of a prototype of Pleiades and Orion. And when we look at these beings, there's a blue energy, like my shirt, very blue, very watery. That's why we have dolphins, and there's more dolphins in our oceans than there are people on this planet. You know what I'm saying? So really, the dolphins are really the leaders, and humans were just kind of walk on the land, but there's really something else going on in the ocean that we don't even know. So it's like we had that real blue energy. We were very guided by the moon, very guided by the emotions, by the ocean. We're actually very aquatic beings. We love water. We actually can breathe underwater for up to 10 minutes. And if we changed our breathing, if we were changed our breathing in a way of in the fifth dimension, we could breathe underwater for like 10 minutes. We're very aquatic. And when we think of Pleiadians and Orions, we have this ascended master energy in us as many human beings. But we're also, Orions and the Pleiadians, there's a lot of expression of creativity, like a Pisces. I think Pisces is seen as the mother of Aries. So Pisces, is the last zodiac, right? Pisces is actually a very significant sign to our history. Pisces is seen as Pleiades. Pisces is seen as the mother who gives birth to Aries, and Aries is Mars. Aries is also connected to Earth, right? So the mother who gave birth to this Earth and gave birth to maybe this solar system, right? The original template blueprint of Mer-ka-ba is Pisces. Right? Springtime, think of March, springing, right? Life, new life, the sprouting of a seed. And then Aries is like the real adventure, the real, everything is coming really alive, right? And the courage to live, right? It takes a lot of courage to build up your Mer-ka-ba, or build up your civilization, or you build up your economy, or religion, or whatever it is that we're building up. So Pisces, which Pisces has a lot to do with our sense of purpose. We're very purpose driven as human beings, right? but we're also not just purpose as like a career, job, or spouse, or it's also purpose within our spirituality. We're very spiritual, like orcas. We're more, like dolphins, whales. We're very spiritual, like these beings, like dolphins, whales. you know Not all beings were created to be like a highly emotional, spiritual, like, some beings, aliens are very intellectual, and they don't have that kind of, that emotional, spiritual, Piscean type of, you know um connection to their planet, or to themselves, or to other people, as we've seen, research type of different aliens, and right. But we, like Pleiadians, we are very, very artistic, in a we're very artistic, like a sacred geometry, which is both scientific and, creative, right? That sacred geometry, we really are, humans that, we designed ourselves originally to really be in this sacred masculinity, this sacred femininity, this like sacred, like dance with creation, right? And a lot of like, spiritual practices, either it's Hinduism or Christianity, I mean, there is a real sense of moving with the beauty. Like, you go to, Catholic school, and you're in the Catholic choir, and there's a real sense of the being in the beauty of creation, a real, beauty for life, and a real grace, and a real sense of expressing that, and really moving with that, right? Really moving with that, being moved emotionally and spiritually. That's what really makes us feel really empowered, right? So part of the, how we've been able to heal from the suffering, and evolve, or not evolve, but sort of shift our mind in a way that we're not so much in the fear, and we're more in the alchemy, is through empowerment. Empowerment has been like a portal, or opening, or a teaching, or a teacher that, has been helping us to awaken the Mer-ka-ba, because once you awaken it, it's like you don't need to be so afraid of loss, or this or that, because you know how to manifest. When you don't know how to manifest, that's when fear is like, you just caught in the survival, right? And you're caught in this beautiful deception, but you're sleeping in it. You don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what you're creating. You don't even know who you are. You're just a collection of something else that doesn't even make sense to you, right? That doesn't even feel even close to something authentic, or something that just really is timeless to you. So I just wanted to give this kind of Luciferian rebellion, and I also want to give this practice, right? Because when you're in it, which we've all been in it, and we all battle with it, and I think to become alert of that unconscious, and become alert, it's like really become sensitized to, because when it only comes in through deception, or manipulation, or like, kind of, it wants you to doubt yourself, okay? And it wants you to be terrified of yourself, of who you are, who you really are, of alchemy manifestation. So it calls all of that witches, and calls all of that like ridicule, and shaming, and attacking, and we've been there, done that. But when you build up the auric field in the Mer-ka-ba, it's like the story, I won't say the story, but it's like there have been so many people, ascended masters, even like Jesus, who were able to walk this path, even Buddha, walk the path of their own empowerment. And it's like able to hold that unconditional love so just fiercely, right? And it's not from a place of fighting for it, right? It's very different, because we can be in the fighting, and still that, it's just never ending. And it has an ability to be deathless, right? To be able to hold enough liberation to be able to to rewrite the karma of that. Not participating in the karma, rewriting the karma. It's very different. So let's see so this mantra, like how, so there's karma coming at you, fighting or whatever, resentment, and we can participate in the karma, but it's like with the Buddha mind or Jesus or Mary Magdalene, is like, how can you rewrite the karma? How can you, instead of spinning back the karma, it's basically the same thing, right? Leader, victim, like, how can you rewrite it? The karma, right? How can you, and it's like, instead of participating in it where it's at, how can you come from this place of being able to see directly into somebody's unconscious, and to be able to see, okay, the hurt, the suffering, and be able to see deeper than that. See, okay, the originality is, okay, the union with self, the creativity of self, and that part of the self, the wholeness part of the self, not the fragmented part of the self. How can you go in and see the wholeness part of the self, not the fragmented part of self? And I think that's what Buddha mind or Jesus has been able to do. It's like, okay, this is a fragment of you. This is not, I'm going to go the wholeness of you and see the divinity. And that rewrites the complete karma, because it's like, oh, wait, yeah, this is a fragmented part of myself. It's this wandering karma, right, that I have in me that is echoing out through many lifetimes. But that's not the wholeness of me, right? And I think it's like, sometimes we have all these little wandering karmas, right, that we've created, from many experiences and lifetimes. And I think coming to that wholeness part of ourselves, we can say, is that unconditional love, is the Mer-ka-ba. With the Da Vinci body, it's like all these different, pieces of ourselves, version of ourselves, passes the mind, all these personalities, these energies, they all kind of come together in this sacred mandala, right? And that sacred mandala is something that the Lucifer rebellions do not have, the sacred mandala. And no matter which manipulation or deception or agenda or power, it still can't get that, right? It would have to step into the wholeness, right? And the wholeness is the, not only just having the knowledge, because you have all the esoteric knowledge, is all the power or whatever it is, but it's stepping into the actual alchemy of it. Because you can have a strategy, you can manipulate, deceive, whatever, you're really good at that, some people are really good at that. But the alchemy, the spirit of being able to really experience and explore the fullness of creation within yourself, it's like you're limited, you can't. You can only go so far. You create barriers. You're caged. You're trapped into these particular realities, particular realms or dimensions, and you don't know how to kind of maneuver through it, through beyond it, or how to return to the source of who you are. The source of who you are. So we're gonna work with this sound. So this sound is Up-Sai Hoa. It's a very powerful sound. I've used this for years, and it again works the blue energy, the ethereal blue, the Pleiades blue, Ryan blue, the blue of the alchemy, the blue of the creativity, empowerment, the blue of being able to have that unconditional love, to return to that source, turn to that wholeness within ourselves. And again, we create the karmas because it's like friction, and friction creates energy and sparks, but we always have to kind of equalize, right? Especially because a lot of people want to move forward, like, the karmas of poverty. It's like people want to move forward, and in order to move forward or to get a different reality, you have to kind of equalize the karmas you have now, right? Or you have to look at those karmas and you have to find a way to remedy them or reconcile, right? In order for you to really step into new realities. Right, so if you don't like the whatever karmas of the ancestors are set up for you and social economic, there has to be some kind of reconcile with the karma, some kind of awareness or being conscious of that unconscious, in order to kind of gain the spirit in you to move that spirit, let it lead you into these new realities, right? And sometimes it's generational, sometimes it can happen in life, whatever it is, right? But, we're all kind of challenged or broken down, or, everything that we're seeing as difficulty or adversity or challenging, it really is a part of the karmas that we have from past lives or ancestors, or the things that are really there to help us bring a reconciliation. I don't think that's a word. Reconcile with that unconditional love, right? It's like really a test, or it's a character development to that unconditional love, because everything is in service of that unconditional love, even if it's real trauma and real pain, and some people have real things. If we're returning back to that place of unconditional love, which is the great, like, wholeness, integration of all kinds of things, an embodiment of all kinds of things, there's when the portal within us between the masculine and feminine come into this harmony, and the portal in us, we can really, that's when the Mer-ka-ba is there. We can completely enter into many new realities in ourselves, and then out externally that starts to show up as well. So here we go. Just chanting for a little bit. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Up, sai ho, sat sheda, sat shado, hud, hud, hud. Exhale. Now I want to do a little clearing, because when I was closing my eyes and meditating on the mantra, very powerful, I could just feel within myself all the kind of fears, the traumas that I've experienced in many lifetimes, and collectively we've experienced. So I would like to clear lifetimes of being shamed consistently by religion for being spiritual. I'd like to clear lifetimes of being shamed by religion for being spiritually indifferent. Firm clear. I would like to clear lifetimes of hiding due to being threatened because of being a spiritual healer, a spiritual teacher. Firm clear. I would like to clear lifetimes of being separated from loved ones violently. Firm clear. I would like to clear lifetimes of being stoned, tortured, damaged. Firm clear. I'd like to clear lifetimes of witnessing a loved one die. I would like to release lifetimes of being ridiculed. I would like to release lifetimes of being ridiculed. Affirm clear, affirm clear, affirm clear. I would like to release lifetimes of being alienated, exiled, abandoned. Affirm clear, affirm clear, affirm clear. I would like to release lifetimes of being in poverty, affirm clear. I'd like to release lifetimes of being deceived, lied to, damaged. Affirm clear. I would like to release lifetimes of slavery. Affirm clear. Affirm clear. I would like to release lifetimes of not being able to be creative. Affirm clear. I like to release lifetimes of being creative and being threatened. Affirm clear. I like to surround everybody with protection. Call upon green Tara, call upon the black green Tara, or the black Tara, the red Tara, the green Tara, the Taras that are here to help us, surround us with protection, The black Tara is to help us with facing evil, evil eye, evil. And the red Tara as well is to help us have courage and also to protect us from any ill will. And these beings are with us. The green Tara is ahead of me with her luminous green body of healing. She's the queen of healing. And the black Tara is to my left, protecting my innocence and from any evil. And then the red Tara is to my right, that is giving me courage and also protecting me from any ill will. And then behind me I have Archangel Michael as a towering giant being, like a giant Anunnaki, who's also protecting, overseeing my higher self, my journey, and protecting my creativity, protecting my mind, my body, my spirit from any interference, any illusions, deceptions, manipulation that may come to me, and alert me when I am in the presence of the manipulation, deception. And above me, I have Archangel Gabriel. Archangel Gabriel flies above me, flies above me, flies above me. Archangel Gabriel's flying above me with the wings, like a black crow, like a hawk, helping me to channel information, wisdom that is pure and original. And then below me, below the soles of my feet, I have the ancestors' might. The ancestors of thousands of ancestors surround me, giving me protection, giving me unconditional love, strength. And I am in the center of this, and in the Sacred Mandela of my Dharma. So I just wanted to do that little clearing ceremony because I could feel, just speaking about this, like, opens so much trauma and suffering and so much, like, fear and you know, that we all have, doubt, fear, that we deal with daily. Okay, so if you're feeling that fear, doubt, it's a daily thing of where we've been. Okay, but we can continue to work towards, like the mantra, we can continue to work towards small liberation. It can be big, it can be very small, it can be very tiny within the heart, very tiny, but it can also be very big, opening in the heart. And we can continue to cry, to let go. We can continue to just allow ourselves to awaken the Mer-ka-ba so that we can use that alchemy, like what I've just done, to intentionally, directly, like, bring about this reconciliation. You know, the best word to describe how we're going to be able to move forward in the Aquarian age and you know, clear karmas, or, you know, to rewrite history, or, you know, or to really get through, you know, any kind of Lucifer rebellions that you know, really want to bring, like, a lot of fear and a lot of damage. You know, how we're going to really get through this, reconciling, right? Reconciling with our past, our present, our future, and the reconciling with all of that hate, fear, anger, resentment, and really coming from a perspective of, like I said, okay, how can I be the breakthrough? You know, how can I use this Mer-ka-ba, you know, to be a breakthrough, to break through the suffering, and to seed new habits, behaviors in relation to it that actually gives me more energy. It gives me more energy, more higher energy, creative energy, right? And gives me even more destructive energy. Destructive as in destructive energy towards letting go of attachments, addictions, you know, purging. Destruction can also be like purifying. It can also be like consciously, like letting something die within us, right? Or dying is not a bad thing, right? It's also about letting ourselves be changed or transformed, which is probably the death part of ourselves, seems to be the most resistance in us, right? But it also is the most liberating part of ourselves, because it means that we can give more space to our healing, or give more space to relaxation, or, you know, letting ourselves be more natural to who we are as a rhythmic, you know, spiritual being, is having these constant deaths and rebirths, and not being afraid of that, right? And that gives us more sense of comfort, and more sense of being able to manage life, rather than, you know, being so overwhelmed to the point where we just completely just check out in that kind of life. So I'll leave you guys with these blessings, and thank you, Satnam.